Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm here with another astrology oracle reading for you, and this will be the first for the month of July. Today is July 4th, 2022, and we are doing an event chart for me to reference, and it is set for 11:11 a.m. in Dayton, Ohio. So I always set my event charts for Dayton, Ohio because that is where I'm located, is the time zone that I'm in, and I always do 11:11 a.m. because of course I do. But if you are watching this in a different time zone or at a different time, it's up to you whether or not you want to make those adjustments and how critical that you want to be. But if you are on the East Coast, then the timing of this will be perfectly fine for you to interpret. Anywhere else in the world, just make note of those time changes. But again, you absolutely don't have to, because even though there are different time zones and we all exist in these different spaces, that doesn't invalidate this chart at all. So again, if you don't feel like doing that technical work, you absolutely don't have to. But if you are interested in making a chart for your own purposes of study and research, just keeping in mind that, you know, if you were in, let's say, Chicago, it would be 10:11, you know, and so on and so forth. So that's just a little spiel about timing. And, you know, I also use the tropical zodiac. I am in that part of the world where it makes sense to do so. Now, other parts of the world, you know, tropical Western astrology doesn't have as much power, or isn't maybe as represented as positively or even really respected. But, you know, I'm here in the United States in Dayton, Ohio, and I use this system. I also want to note that I use the Placidus house system and not whole sign houses. So when I interpret where the different planets fall into different houses, if you use a different house system, it may look different for you. So, all right, now I'm done with my spiel. So, according to this chart that we have today, we have the sun in Cancer at 12 degrees, we have the moon in Virgo at 13 degrees, and we have the rising in Virgo at 10 degrees. So kind of interesting because the sun, moon, and rising in this chart are all within, you know, 3 degrees of each other or less. And we have the sun in Cancer, of course, but to have the moon and the rising in the same sign, I don't think I've actually done a video yet where we've had that. So that's kind of cool to see. Again, still have that stellium in Aries, although Mars is at the 29th degree. So we are about to see Mars move on into the sign of Taurus. And, you know, Mercury, who moves very quickly, is catching up to the sun and is at 28 degrees of Gemini. So Mercury will soon be moving into Cancer. Mars will soon be moving into Taurus. And we'll see a little bit of energy shift, right? We're going to go from cardinal and mutable to fixed and cardinal. So kind of something interesting to note there. And the outer planets like Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto are all still in the same signs they've been in. All right. Now, of course, if you've done any research on the Pluto return of the United States, I mean, how can you not, with everything that's going on in the world right now, and our country specifically, although we are a global superpower, so whatever happens in the United States obviously has an impact in the rest of the world. But whenever, again, you look at the Pluto return of the United States, it is based on the original birth chart, the Sibley chart of the United States for July 4th, 1776. Please don't quiz me on my history there, but so again, whenever you do look at that chart, you'll see, you know, Pluto is in Capricorn in the original chart of the United States, which is when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And here today, July 4th, 2022, we again are seeing Pluto in Capricorn at a very late degree. It is not exact because Pluto is still doing, Pluto is still doing its retrograde. I didn't see the little R there at first. I was gonna be like, oh, maybe I'm not right about that. But Pluto is still in retrograde. And, you know, the Pluto return is going to be hitting for years, you guys. Pluto is such a slow-moving planet, and with these retrograde behaviors, you know, it's going to be a bit of a long, drawn-out process. And I'm not going to get too into that because we can all see what is happening and what's been happening. So, again, we have a Cancer sun, Virgo moon and rising, and let us see where the cards take us today. I am going to go with the South Node, Life's Debts. So this is interesting because I've actually not talked about the lunar nodes in any video yet. mostly just because it hasn't come up. So the South Node is currently in the sign of Scorpio. And I have talked extensively about the solar eclipse and lunar eclipses that are falling into that Taurus-Scorpio axis. And whenever you pull up a chart, like the one I'm looking at right now on astro.com, I can see that the North Node, or the true node, sometimes it may be called, is in Taurus at 21 degrees. So if that's the case, then the South Node has to be exactly opposite to that. So that would mean that the South Node is currently in Scorpio at 21 degrees. Just an opposite, north and south, right? There's the polarity there. And when I look at the North Node and Uranus currently in the sign of Taurus, we have the North Node at 21 degrees, as I mentioned, and we have Uranus at 17 degrees. So we're just past a conjunction between the North Node and Uranus. And even though this card is the South Node, I think that is really important to discuss because there has been a lot of revolutionary change in all of us in the last few years, but very specifically, Uranus in a sign is about an 8-year transit. So we have been feeling the disruption in Taurus, right? And I mean, we look at supply chain, we look at agriculture, we look at food supply. We all know that there are serious issues going on here. But to see that the North Node is also conjunct with the Uranus, that disruptor, right? The genius inventor. I've seen so many people who have either realigned with a new career path, spiritual path, relationship, friendship. Things are changing and they're really sending them towards their destiny, like what is fated for them, so you could say. So opposite to that, we have the South Node. So the South Node is forming an opposition always to the North Node. And again, it will be in the sign of Scorpio according to this current chart. As things progress and move and switch around and change, they're not going to stay there forever. Even though I say that, Taurus and Scorpio is fixed, that doesn't mean that the planets stay there. It just means that when they're involved in that energy, they're experiencing that very steadfast, stubborn, unmoving, unwavering type of energy, which we're not in right now, right? The sun is in Cancer, which is cardinal at the beginning of summer. So we're more in a phase right now collectively with the solar season of just starting anew, feeling new feelings, nurturing yourselves and others in new ways. But Scorpio in the sign of, the South Node in the sign of Scorpio, again, this is this fixed energy. And the South Node is about life's debts. So what does that mean? Depending on which type of astrology and astrologer that you talk to, you're going to get a lot of different answers to that question. The way that I'm going to answer it for you is that there is something either from past life or, depending on how old you are and how many lives it feels like you lived, that there's something from your past that may be kind of drudging up something. Now, Scorpio is not one to do that, okay? Scorpio does not like to dredge up the past. It does not like to go through those motions. It is very debilitating. Scorpio is a very powerful sign. And so, when karma from the past comes back, it's almost just like, well, I guess we had to bring that up. It's not that Scorpio, it doesn't like change. I mean, it's a fixed sign, you know what I mean? And very much because Scorpio has such a depth to it, especially around taboo topics, it's not always fun to do these things. In fact, it's not often fun. But, at this time, if you are in therapy or if you are, even just like finding a new way to break through some truth to your partner, this card really wants you to do that. It wants to discuss your karmic debt. It wants you to really figure out, why are you in the position that you're in? Is there something that you need to take accountability for? So I am going to read out of my little book here for you. And come here to the back. 42. Bear with me, we're getting there. All right. I'm going to read you the quote because I have to. This is from Deepak Chopra. Karma, when properly understood, is just the mechanics through which consciousness manifests. Ooh, dang. The South Node represents a karmic point in our charts where certain matters must be discharged or cast off in order to develop and move on towards greater things. So before I continue, let's just talk about that. You know, I mentioned before that Uranus and the North Node are basically just working together right now, right? They're changing that life direction. They're changing that life path. It only makes sense when you see, you know, this just barely passed conjunction between the North Node and Uranus, that the South Node would come up. Because if you're going to be progressing forward, moving on to the next level, taking things to the next height, hello, we have to deal with the past. There, you know, the impression that we can just move on from something and forget and bury it down and everything else is exactly what Scorpio South Node is trying to undo. You know, we are a part of the millennials here. I say we, assuming that everyone that watches this is a millennial. That's not true. But if you are a millennial, we are a part of the Pluto and Scorpio generation, and we are the tellers of secrets. You know, we are the ones who let out the deep down buried truth. Now, even if you are not a Scorpio, like in your big 3 or anything, or even big 6, if you are a millennial, you have Pluto and Scorpio, and that is its home sign. So dredging up the past to deal with the karma, I mean, that's what Pluto wants. And again, we're in the Pluto return of the United States. If it doesn't seem like we are dredging back up, you know, conflicts and issues from the past, I mean, where have you been? All right, let me continue. The Southern Lunar Node is also called the Dragon's Tail, and this is where most past karma lies in this astrological chart. So for your own personal birth chart, if you take a look at where the North and South nodes are, that can also give you some interpretation on maybe what kind of karma that you are dealing with from the past. The North Node opens doorways, but the South Node represents, again, those karmic debts. When the South Node turns up in a reading, it's a turning point. It's a time of endings and beginnings, as are eclipses, by the way. Understand that there is something about to close that has been held in place for a very long time. Familiar ways will end, ushering you forward into new ways and different developments. You're ready to step out of the rut and align with your higher vision. You may be evaluating aspects of your life to realize there's no longer a connection there and it's time to move on. Doors may slam, but in the end, you'll recognize that this is going to help you towards further maturity. There could be a major turning point, something about maximizing changes, as difficult as they may seem. Basically, prepare for what's next. Prepare to experience change. Prepare to experience differences. And I know me personally, I'm a Scorpio rising, Pluto Scorpio, and I also have my Venus in Scorpio. My husband is a Taurus moon and rising, and you know, we're totally feeling this axis this year. And so if you have Taurus or Scorpio in your big 3, I know you're feeling this too. But you know, this is a time to clear home, clear out the BS, you know, the apologies that you need to make, the forgiveness that you need to give, the endings that you need to accept, all of these things. That is what this card is really asking us to do this week. And I mean, what a freaking week to do it. So that is all I have for you right now. I am wishing everyone the best in these crazy times and sending you so much love. If you want to connect with me directly, don't hesitate to reach out on Instagram. I'm on my phone like any other good millennial all the time. You can find me on Instagram at AlexPerryPR or at the Perry Rose Academy, and I would love to hear from you. So in the meantime, take care, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.